you ever experienced something so totally unbelievable that in the moment, it literally felt like you had stepped straight into an urban legend? Well, I am super excited to guide you through today's explainer, because we're looking at a documented encounter that is equal parts fascinating and honestly, a little terrifying. We're going to break down the anatomy of an intense night fishing trip in Louisiana that just went completely off the rails. Let's dive in.
Tonight we catch the biggest catfish ever. That was Tyler, joking around with his three buddies, Jake, Ryan, and Mason, as they unloaded their truck deep in the countryside. You know, it's a super optimistic, lighthearted boast, but looking back, it drips with this eerie irony. Tyler had absolutely no idea about the dark reality that was waiting for them out there in the river.
All right, Section 1, the Blackwater River Setup.
Now, the locals down there don't just call it Blackwater River for fun. They call it that for a very specific reason. After sunset, the water looks literally as dark as oil. I want you to imagine the atmosphere for a second. The moon is totally hidden behind these thick clouds. The surrounding forest is just gripped by this strange, heavy quiet. There's no city noise, just the sound of crickets and the occasional splash of water in the dark. It is the ultimate eerie, isolated setting.
Moving right along to Section 2, Division of Labor.
So every good expedition has a structure, right? As they unloaded the truck, they all had their jobs. Jake carried the fishing rods. Ryan brought the snacks, which, let's be honest, is absolutely essential. Mason handled the lanterns, which are going to be incredibly important in a minute here. And Tyler, he proudly carried a giant cooler. They get their small wooden dock all set up, arrange those glowing lanterns to push back the dark, cast their lines into that black water, and they waited for hours.
Which brings us to Section 3, the sudden strike.
Okay, so that strange quiet we just talked about, the hidden moon, the crickets, it was completely shattered in a split second. Out of nowhere, Ryan yanks his rod hard and yells, "Guys, something huge is biting." The rod is bending so far, it looks like it's literally going to snap in half. Everyone rushes over to help as the water starts swirling violently and this massive shadow starts moving just beneath the surface.
This whole escalation happens in a matter of frantic seconds. First, Ryan's rod bends dangerously under this immense weight. Next, the dark water swirls violently, showing just incredible power down below. Then, that massive shadow moves ominously beneath the surface. And finally, boom! A giant explosion of water. The tension builds right up to this massive, violent breach.
All right, Section 4, a monster revealed.
You guys, this wasn't just a big catch. A giant catfish exploded out of the river, and its body was literally longer than a grown man. It had these giant whiskers, and in the creepy light of the wooden dock, its eyes actually glowed, reflecting the lantern light. With its huge mouth open wide and water just pouring off its massive body, it honestly looked less like a fish and more like some kind of river beast straight out of an old legend.
Holy, that's a monster, Jake shouted, and you can totally understand why. The scale of this creature was just so far beyond anything they expected. But it wasn't just a visual shock. It instantly turned into a desperate physical struggle because this giant fish was actively overpowering them.
The struggle is totally frantic. Second one, the sheer force of the fish drags Ryan right toward the edge of the dock. Second 2, Mason lunges, grabbing Ryan's jacket just in the nick of time to stop him from going into the black water. Second 3, Tyler grabs the rod to help pull. And then, Second 4, as they physically struggle, thunder rumbles across the sky, and a single flash of lightning hits. For one split second, they get a clear, terrifying, high-definition look at the massive body thrashing above the water.
And that leads us to Section 5, the unbelievable truth. The line snapped. Just take a second with that. The physical connection completely broke. With that single snap, the massive fish crashed heavily back into the dark, oily water and disappeared completely. Just like that, the chaotic physical struggle was over.
The aftermath was immediate. Silence returned to the forest. The four friends are left standing there on the dock, completely soaked, shaking, and just staring at the empty river. Tyler slowly whispers, "No one is ever going to believe this." And it's true, right? The contrast from the violent struggle to this haunting realization is incredible. Without a photo, without the fish, it's just another tall tale. And that is exactly how local legends are born. From real, terrifying encounters in the dark that just totally defy explanation. But the story doesn't quite end there. I want to leave you with a final chilling question. What caused the second giant splash echoing from the darkness behind them? Because just as they stood shivering on the dock, suddenly another massive splash echoed from the pitch-black river. Was there more than one monster in the black water?
It definitely leaves you wondering what else is lurking out there in the dark. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for today's Explainer. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on our next deep dive. See you next time.